There is a specific kind of quiet that only exists in a subway station after 3 in the morning. It's an isolation that feels almost heavy, right up until the final train breaks the silence. On this particular night, exactly at 3:11 a.m., a college student stepped through the doors, heading home and expecting a completely empty commute. But as the train bypassed the next platform without picking anyone up, the overhead display glitched. Instead of a station name, it flashed a sudden directive: do not exit. The scattered passengers chuckled, writing it off as a software bug. But then the train entered the next tunnel and stayed there. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15, with only the flicker of the carriage lights and the relentless roar of the tracks. By holding the train in the dark for an impossible stretch, the geography of the city ceases to matter. The passenger is no longer traveling between 2 points. They are suspended in a transit vacuum where normal rules of the commute have been stripped away. When the train finally ground to a halt, the windows revealed a platform missing any city markers or route numbers. A single weathered sign offered the only clue, reading simply, "Last stop." Standing on the concrete were dozens of figures dressed in decades-old clothing. None of them moved toward the open doors. They stood perfectly rigid, staring directly into the carriage. Suddenly, every smartphone inside the car vibrated in unison. A single notification appeared on every screen: capacity full. And the train doors, sitting wide open to the silent crowd outside, refused to shut. By pairing the classic image of silent figures on a dark platform with a rigid digital error, the haunting becomes a mechanized trap. There is no fleeing. The system is broken, and it requires a manual fix. The train sits idle, the speakers crackling with a calm, automated request: please correct the imbalance. The doors stay open, waiting for a specific adjustment before the journey can continue. This diagram maps the physical constraints: 20 distinct seats in white against 21 red passenger dots. Recognizing the ledger is overcapacity by exactly 1 unit, a single red dot separates and slides onto the platform to balance the equation. The instant his foot cleared the threshold, the metal doors snapped shut violently. The train immediately surged forward, leaving him behind. This operates as a zero-sum haunting. It's an entity driven by strict mathematical ledger rules, rather than active malice. The horror comes from the total indifference of the system. It doesn't care who leaves, only that the numbers match. A collective sigh of relief washed over the carriage as the train picked up speed. But as the student glanced around the car, he started counting the passengers a second time. This counter visualizes the tally after the sacrifice. Despite a man leaving the train, the total abruptly halts at exactly 21 passengers. The student remembered the old man's warning right before the blackout. The system never actually takes one, it replaces one. Sitting across the aisle, in a seat that was previously empty, an unfamiliar woman slowly lifted her head. Nobody else reacted. A living passenger for an anomaly seamlessly. The terror moves past the threat of physical death. It targets the deeply unsettling fear of identity erasure, the idea that you can be cleanly swapped out and the world will simply adjust its memory to accept your replacement. When the train finally pulled into a legitimate, brightly lit station, the students sprinted out and immediately flagged down transit security. The police halted the train and swept every single carriage. Their search yielded 0 anomalies. There was no extra passenger, there was no old man who had sacrificed himself, and there was no mysterious woman sitting by the window. The definitive proof came when investigators pulled the station's security footage. It clearly showed the student boarding the train at 3:11 a.m., walking down an entirely empty aisle, and sitting in a carriage completely alone. The transit authority confirmed one final detail. There had been no final service schedule that night. The station had been officially closed for maintenance hours before the student ever walked through the turnstiles. The security logs present a total contradiction to the student's account. It leaves 2 possibilities. Either the student's memory fabricated an entire carriage of people, or he was caught in an environment that simply cannot be recorded by a digital sensor. The police report closed the case, but the event established a permanent scar on the local transit lore. And every year, on the exact anniversary of the incident, the phenomenon repeats. Commuters stranded late at night report hearing the distinct screech of brakes echoing down the tunnel. At precisely 3:11 a.m., headlights pierce the dark, and an unscheduled train rolls to a stop at the empty platform. The doors slide open to reveal an entirely vacant car, save for the digital sign glowing brightly overhead, broadcasting its status: last stop, 1 seat available. This specific legend survives because it preys on vulnerability. It transforms the mundane necessity of traveling alone late at night into a permanent, open invitation, one that simply waits for the next passenger to take a seat.